What's your reaction to what the Prime Minister has announced this morning?
I guess there's basically two. One is the very positive fundamentals that the Prime Minister's talking about, that Australia does have a huge renewable resource. We do have critical minerals which are important in manufacturing solar panels and batteries, and adding value to that resource is important and very valuable. And certainly the role of the hunter as a way of doing some of that could also be potentially enormous. I'd just be a bit cautious, however, about the idea of turning that into manufacturing solar panels. Globally, solar panels is a commodity. It's been a bloodbath commercially. Many of the companies that existed only a few years ago, most of them have gone broke, many of them Chinese. We had 3 companies 10 years ago in Australia who tried, or maybe 15 years ago, and they've disappeared. So it is a big challenge. The technology is one thing, making solar panels is another. I think we have to be very cautious to make sure that the way we do this, if we're going to put government money into this, we really are backing something where Australia's strategic advantage could lie. I would be very doubtful, for those reasons I mentioned, that we can do it in making solar panels, because it just hasn't happened before. Why would it be different this time around?
Tony, can you just explain to me why it is that it's been so difficult to create solar panels and that there are a litany of failed businesses along the way?
Well, I guess it became amazingly quickly. It went from a high-tech development side of things, and some Australian high-tech people were absolutely involved in this, some very well-known people globally. But turning that into manufacturing at the scale that suddenly became important was rapidly taken over by the Chinese, as the Prime Minister said. The Germans for many years had a lead. Other companies like BP had a lead in manufacturing solar panels, not trivial organisations, but they were wiped out by dramatic cost reductions. And even in China, many of the companies, one of whom was started by a gentleman who actually got his PhD in Australia at Sydney University, or in one of the Sydney universities, that company was also wiped out. He was once the richest man in China. He went broke, basically. This is a very, very difficult commodity business, and scale and manufacturing scale not only wiped out everybody else except the Chinese, it also wiped out half the Chinese. Now, maybe things have changed, but we need to be very careful to make sure we understand what would be different this time around.
Well, I wonder, Tony, is part of the point of difference here that this would be backed by the Commonwealth government with a substantial investment in training, and it sounds like potentially in the actual infrastructure around this as well, because it sounds like the Prime Minister was really indicating there that there's going to be a lot of work given that there wasn't a transition for that coal-fired power station.
Well, he's absolutely right that the transition for what comes beyond coal and Hunter wasn't done particularly well. The hydrogen head start that the Prime Minister's talked about absolutely is a fantastic idea and may very well lead to some huge opportunities, including in the Hunter. The battery technology that we've seen already, again, most of them not made in Australia. I think AGL is putting a very large battery in the same site as the Liddell power station. The use of ARENA, the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, the government's committed to using that organisation to have a fundamental look at the technology side of this. Now, developing technology, as we've already seen in the solar space, is a lot different from turning that into scale, manufacturing at scale. And that's where I think the pause needs to be, that we don't automatically assume we can go from understanding and developing technology, areas where we can build upon our renewable energy and mineral resource, into manufacturing panels in a commodity business.
And it sounds like the Prime Minister wasn't giving a really strict time frame. So is the opportunity here that this is the starting point and that there is going to be a whole lot of work that happens from here to create or build this industry, particularly there in the Hunter Valley?
Well, there'll be a lot of work to be done, but the Hunter Valley has been a place where industries have come and gone over many, many years. The Hunter has reinvented itself successfully many times, and I am optimistic that the Hunter will do that again. I spent a lot of time in the Hunter myself over the last several years, talking to people and working with some of the projects that are going on in the Hunter. I used to be involved in a business that had a very large position in the Hunter. So I think there's many, many advantages in the Hunter for these sorts of things. We also know that the growth in the solar manufacturing industry is by no means finished. Technologies will change, and maybe opportunities will arise. I'm not suggesting for a second that people won't find smart technologies that can be developed and play a role. I'm just questioning whether or not putting huge amounts of government money in what might turn out to be a very questionable investment is well thought through. And I would expect that the organisations the Prime Minister referred to, ARENA and the Clean Energy Finance Corporation, will impose a very strong economic lens and financial assessment lens before they start putting serious public funding into this project. Now, I'm not suggesting it's fundamentally a bad idea. I just really question that we make sure that we've understood exactly where Australia's real strategic advantage is, and does it lie in manufacturing solar panels.
Tony Wood, Energy Program Director at the Grattan Institute, thank you very much for your insights this morning.
Thank you.